Hanging out here at my studio, that or I should say my boss Ming's studio on the Jersey Shore, the shared universe. I'm Rob Acampora. This is the A Game. The man on the other side of me, I don't think really needs an introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyhow, and hopefully this will be respectful of him because when he signed with WCW back in the day, he was one of the youngest wrestlers in the history of WCW to be a part of that roster. Over that 10-plus year period, the 5-time tag team champion. The man became, without a doubt, the stuff that things are made of. Marcus Buff Bagwell made a name in WCW, and he's making a name now as he's making his life more open and talking about his journey. And I'm really, like many of you fans of you, Buff, we are really happy where you're at and what you're doing right now. So hopefully it feels right, it feels good, and it's going to continue on day after day.
Man, it's been a really first of all, thank you, great introduction, and that means a lot to me that you even took me on here to have me talk to people, because there's so many people I think have really don't really know what I'm doing right now, and that's why I'm trying to reach out, let everybody know, and my fans know and stuff, just where I'm at, where everybody wants to know where Buff Bagwell is at, and I'm getting busy again.
Mm-hmm. And he disappeared. We were worried about this. There you go. You're back, Buff. No problem. I've learned a long time ago, especially with technology, it's going to happen. So no worries, but continue where you were, bud.
Yeah. So anyway, so it's been a journey, man, for me. With wrestling and injuries and everything. I mean, pain medication and pills just become a big thing with wrestling, because there's so many things that happen along the way. I broke my neck in '98.
Yep, you did.
That was kind of the first time that I think everything kind of started falling apart with me, with when you're starting to get your own prescriptions and everything. And you got to weigh, you tell yourself, well, I'm taking this because I broke my neck.
Oh, yeah.
These medications are okay because I broke my neck.
When you go, if I can interrupt for a second, when you go back to that injury with Steiner, did you really know how bad it was at that point? Or was it just, you're saying to yourself, you know what, I'm going to get through this. I'll take a few pills. I'll do this. I'm going to be fine. Not knowing that down the road where you'd be at this point, obviously you couldn't have known.
No, it really was. I mean, as soon as I was hit, I've done enough in life with, from fighting to, back when you could fight and not go to jail. I did that a bunch, and I went to jail as well. But back in the day where people actually had fights and people didn't call the police and go to jail, it was, I fought a bunch of fights, and I was the baby out of 3 tough kids and, a tough family, and just football, baseball. I was a Golden Glove state championship boxer in the state of Georgia in '82 when I was 12 years old. So I'm a tough kid, and I knew, as soon as I hit Rick Steiner's back and my neck went that way,
right.
Instantly, if you can be alive and know the feeling of how it would be if you were dead, that's how I felt. It was the most bizarre feeling that I went through ever in my life.
Right.
And I went into the mat face down, and I just remember everything went silent, man. So it was just like, I knew I was hurt bad, but I didn't quite know I was paralyzed. So when he goes to roll me over, I start to realize I'm smothering in the mat because I can't move. And so when he goes to roll me over and my eyes meet his eyes, I said, I'm paralyzed. His eyes get big, like, what do we do now?
Right, exactly.
We got live TV cameras rolling. So the long and the short of it is, no, I didn't. But then pretty quick, I realized I was paralyzed forever. But 11 minutes go by, and thank God the feeling was coming back, but then I was on the table. So really this journey of not being able to move, the surreal part of that,
right.
And then you're duct taped down here all the way down till you get through CAT scans and all that, man, you're talking about, 3 hours probably. And then the doctor walks in and says, sit up. And I go, are you set up? I was just paralyzed. Mm-hmm. So I try to sit up, and I can, and I'm like moving my arms and my legs. And literally, like, it was like the worst bad joke in the world was played on me. I went from being paralyzed so I could move. So I knew, yes, to answer your question, yes, I knew I was badly hurt, and thought it was over right there, because of my first 2 doctors said, you got to quit.
Right.
Quit, you can't wrestle no more. If you hit it again, you're going to be paralyzed instantly. The third doctor I went to was a woman, and she said, yeah, you need to quit. And I went, oh my God, it's over. I mean, that's 3 doctors. And then she goes, but you also need to quit taking a shower. Don't drive your car. You can never ride your motorcycle again. Don't walk across the street. And I go, what are you talking about?
Right.
And she goes, for what to happen to you to have to get paralyzed again, it would take a crazy accident again like this one. So I'm saying you might as well quit living life. So you're going to drive your car again and you can get rear-ended. You're going to take a shower again, but you could fall and break your neck.
Right.
So there's no more of a gamble than living life. And I said, that was the answer I was looking for.
There you go.
So I was back in 10 months on TV. I was back on TV in 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
I was back in the ring in 10 against Rick Steiner and Goldberg.
Yeah. Looking back at it, you probably go, what was I thinking? Oh my God.
Yeah. So, but that is where my addiction really, I think, took hold, because I truly had an injury. Mm-hmm. Everybody dabbled with pills, maybe like smoking cigarettes or something. Everybody dabbled.
Right.
But, if you had something to hurt, you took a pain pill. But when you start getting your own prescription, that's when it starts getting dangerous.
Right.
But you don't know that. Mm-hmm. And then it's time to refill it, and you're a little early. And that's the start of this, decade of using. Yeah. And so out of that came, 4 rehabs. And this would have been my 5th. And I went to a place called Black Bear Recovery in North Georgia. And it was the first time that I couldn't poke a bunch of holes in their system.
It's funny. I was about to ask you, what's the difference this time? So obviously that was one of the big differences this 5th go round as opposed to before, because maybe in a sense, as you said, you can't poke a hole in the system. And maybe it was that at that point, it was like, because I remember when DDP had released a statement, via YouTube about your status and going back to rehab. So I also figure the accountability factor with him being involved, you were probably at the point of, I think I finally have hit the rock bottom that everybody talks about.
I had hit rock bottom for the rock bottom that I'd ever hit. I'd hit it. Now he had took me. First thing he did is he walked up and took my phone, and he goes to my niece Jonna. She was in my life. She's huge. She's very big in my life. I love her extremely much, so much. Her family too. And she's just a great, great girl, but she was in my life right before rehab as well. Mm-hmm. And she's a beautiful woman, got a great family. And she and Dallas were kind of behind the scenes, behind my back, getting it together of that Uncle Mark was messed up. Yeah. And so they basically did like an intervention on me here, and just said, look, she's gone. I'm gone. Dallas said, I'm gone. Jonna's gone. We're out of your life unless you go to rehab today. And they wanted me to go to 90 days. And I said, Dallas, I ain't going 90 days. He said, 90 days or you're cut off. And so I went thinking, well, I'll go to 30. And this is where I learned, this time being different. Right. You can't just go 30 days and get off pills and get clean and then you're okay. It just don't happen that way. Mm-hmm. So very, 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 the statistics go so much higher on the people that do the full 90 days. Mm-hmm. And you really get the sponsor, and you do the 90 meetings in 90 days, and you do the 120, you do the 90 to 120 days, right? Sober. And like today is like, I'm 6 months clean. Not today, but within a few days, I'm 6 months clean.
If I remember correctly, because I was doing my homework, August 27th is where you considered your sobriety day.
So August 27th is my sobriety day. And there's actually an app that you can go on, and it tells you exactly how many days it is. Right. Because there's a big argument with sobriety, not a big argument, but I've seen it be kind of an iffy thing, mm-hmm. where people do a day count, mm-hmm. but there's also a sobriety date. And I'm on the sobriety date argument because I just don't believe in saying, 736 days. Mm-hmm. Why you might as well add the hours and minutes if you're doing that. I just don't. To me, that's like almost like a double-edged sword of, if you're counting that much, this must not be going so good. And that's just my thought. Right. That's how I function. Everybody does this different. Everybody's walk of sobriety and recovery is different. This is the way I do it. So some therapists at Tangu, where I go, where I graduated from,
Mhm.
they would say sobriety date, or sometimes they'd say, how many days sober. And when
Right.
it came around, the guys that were trying to do the days sober, they'd say, I don't know, 320 something like that. And they'd always end it with their sobriety date. So I was like, look, just get to the sobriety date and go on. But anyway, it's been 6 months roughly and just feel great. I graduated black bear after 30 days. I did what I'd never done before, which is my success reason is I went day 31. I was at aftercare.
Okay.
The word aftercare was never going to happen in my life. I was going to go 30 days.
Uh-huh.
I was going to be clean and I was going to go back to reality. And that's the worst possible thing you can do. You've got to take this on with knowing you're going in this thing for doing 120 days. That's what my belief of my success is. I stayed clean every day for 120 days. And that gets you on a path of knowing, hey, man, I got this.
Right.
I do got this. And you never got it, but at least you've got it a lot more than that 30, man. 30, you're just a fawn deer going through the woods, man. You're just without your mama. And it just, the least, my first thing out of the gate was a flight to Anchorage, Alaska.
What? Wow.
I got my 30-day chip in
Yeah.
Anchorage, Alaska, with Dallas Page picking me up from it.
Wow.
I'll never forget my 30-day chip. So on that flight, bro, it was alcohol, and I always drank on flights. That's how you get through them. So it was
so this is the first experience where you're literally going, I'm going to go on this flight and be sober. How daunting was it in your head at first? Or was it comfortable? Well, it can't be comfortable the first time.
Well, what happened to me was I was like, oh, man, I'm ready for this. I'm good to go. But then when you get out there and you're passing every bar at the Atlanta airport that I used to walk into, and the bartender's, hey, bub, what's up? I'm like, hey. And I was like, let me just get past there. Let me get past there. And then you get there and you get on the plane, and here comes the drink thing. Drinks are free for me.
Right. Sure.
3 million miler. So the drinks are free. I'll take a Diet Coke. That was just, I've never said the word Diet Coke on an airplane.
Right. Yeah.
So it was always a Coors Light and 2 vodkas, But even being comfortable saying 2 vodkas and a Coors Light to you right now, it's just a whole nother ball game for me. I'm just so happy. I can think clear. My voice is clear. And I'm sleeping great, which is my big scare, was I wasn't going to be able to sleep. Right. And that was a story that Dallas always says, it's a story you tell yourself. Yeah. And I told myself that I couldn't sleep without a Xanax. I can't sleep, Dallas, without a Xanax. It's not my fault. I can't sleep without it. Mm-hmm. And that's what every addict does. And that's what happens. I can't work without it. I can't go out and have fun without it.
Right.
Everybody's got their I can't do story, but it's a story you tell yourself. Mm-hmm. So through that and through breathing, man, breathing is better than a Xanax or any kind of muscle relaxer. My deal was Xanax and Somas. And I would, if I felt something coming on, man, it was a 2 milligram Xanax. I'd have it under my tongue if I started feeling funny. Right. And instead, now there is no Xanax. Now you've got your brain to work for you, which is calm down, chill out, and take some deep breaths, man. And Dallas is all over this breathing thing because we all breathe, right? All the time, all day long. But you don't really think about it. True. If you make it mindful, you've heard this thing, take a deep breath.
Of course, yeah.
But you don't really know what's happening when you're doing, but you do feel better afterwards.
You do.
What Dallas really knows, he breaks it down, man, how it relieves anxiety and stress. He breaks down the medical terminology of what a deep breath really does. He does counts. He does 5-second counts up to 20-second breaths. Mm-hmm. And I mean, after just a big deep breath, it helps you a lot. But the way he does it, it's unbelievable. So breathing your mind and just making it mindful to take a deep breath, not just not thinking about it and doing it, but taking a deep breath and I mean, bro, if you be mindful of that and do it, it takes you right down to the ground, bro, of a good place. And it would take a Xanax 10 minutes to hit me. So it's just ridiculous. It's so sad that something so easy can replace what I was doing to myself. But I figured it out, and I want to tell everybody I can about it because there is a solution.
Yeah, and I wanted you to have this platform to do that. And I want to go back to 2 points that you made that I think are really important. I've seen some of your interviews over the last several years, and there were a few, and I'm being dead honest.
Yeah.
Hear yourself now, and to hear you so clear and so crisp. And there are a few of them where I'm like going, is he going to pass out? I mean, I'm being honest. So,
I know.
so to see that alone, to see you just glow right now is a great thing. Obviously, Diamond Dallas Page, God bless him, he saved so many people just by doing what he's done with the average Joe, former wrestlers like yourself and Jake Roberts and many others. And utilizing, and I saw this on your, by the way, MarcusBuffBagwell.com. There is a video of it. He speaks to the breathing. There was a breathing exercise that he was doing with Dallas on his website. Check it out because they will defend a point. And he's holding it for 5. Then it became 10. And it is about bringing the arms up, bringing the breath, and really bringing it in. And it's interesting because that's part of his DDP yoga. That's just a big piece of it. But to understand the breathing technique, and that's something that you probably never kind of grasped before. So I'm gathering it was one of the first times speaking to that video that you actually did it.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. But, and again, you hear the word, hey, man, I mean, even a smart ass will tell you, hey, man, take a deep breath, you know, and you don't really think about what, but it really is. It is a lifesaver, man. I mean, if I took 5 seconds to take a deep breath before I reacted on about a million things, my life would have been a whole lot easier and a whole lot better. Just to take just a deep breath, but knowing what you're doing with that deep breath.
Right.
He's really big into the baby, how infants, they do what's called baby breathing, which they breathe from their bellies. It's called belly breathing. And we learn to breathe otherwise as we get older, but a baby don't know at first. So it does a belly breathing thing that my niece Jonna has as an infant, and Dallas, she's gotten Jonna to video her baby River and let Dallas see it so he can show it on his new talk he does, because it's a very, very great speech on taking breaths. Wow. And it's great. But yeah, I'm just so thrilled to have the support team.
Right.
And at first I knew it was great what I had with the support team, but I really didn't know. And again, that was another word that I didn't, Marcus Bagwell didn't need that. I didn't need 90 and 90. I don't need a sponsor. But I did all of these things this time, including a support team.
Right.
And with that, it just keeps you so much more accountable that I can't even explain it, man. Everything I'm saying, you need to realize, to a long time prescription pill user, was solved by doing the steps that everybody has always done to be successful. And that's normally a follower. And a follower is, in my way I was brought up, was a little bit of a loser. But the saying does say, lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way.
Yeah, I remember.
So either lead it or follow, but get out of the way if you're not doing one or the other. And that's a good saying, because I found in sobriety and recovery, you do have to follow. I'm following what Jake Roberts did and DDPY did for Jake Roberts.
Right.
He's the most success story that I know. So why not follow a guy that's 8 years sober and makes the kind of money he's making now after being just in a really bad spot? So it's a great thing. I'm excited. I'm just on a good place right now. I'm in a good place. My mind's in a good spot, and I'm enjoying life again. I mean, I notice things like when I walk outside. This sounds a little corny, but I walk outside and I notice like how beautiful the day is, or birds that chirping. Man, it was always about getting to a pharmacy and making sure your pills are there. And then if they wasn't there, you were mapping out. If holidays were coming up, you were mapping out, could you get your prescriptions in time? And man, I am freedom from addiction, freedom.
2 things right there. The mindset. and it's interesting because I watched you on TV, and when you watch, and just to use an example, this is how many people remember you. Give me photo number one. Go back to the WCW days when you look, yeah, and we know this guy, but your mindset now. If you could go back and talk to that guy with the mindset you have now, I mean, would there be something where you just be like, "Hey, dude, if we don't get it together soon, it's going to be a rough trip." You know what I'm saying?
You know, God, it would be such a deep talk with him, and he did so good though. Like my parents, when my parents came to me, my mom was like, "Steve," my dad's name's Steve.
Yeah.
My mom said, "Steve, you got to go talk to Mark, man. You got to talk to him. It's just he's out of control. It's just, it's just too many pills. There's too much stuff going on."
Right.
Well, my dad talks back to my mom and he goes, "Judy," he goes, he lives in $1 million house.
Right.
There's not a drawer that's untidy. There's not a dish in the sink. His cars are washed and the oil changes are in him. He's an oil change freak because he was a car racer. He's a drag racer. And he goes, his oil changes are up because his motorcycles are clean. His garage floor is painted and clean. He goes, his house is beautiful. He looks like $1 million. He goes, and Judy, we work for him. What do you want me to say?
That's hard for the family. Yeah.
It was hard to tell me what to do because I was doing everything right.
Yeah.
But again, we knew it was a problem. So they came at me a great way. They came at me financially. And they said, look at what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And man, it was so ugly that I didn't look. I've never taken that test. I've never done when you go to like defensive driving after getting a DUI, mm-hmm. you go to this thing, defensive driving. And one of the things they do is in a risk reduction class is they make you put down like how much money you spend on your alcohol or your cigarettes. I don't smoke, but those kind of things.
Right.
And you add it up and man, it's a scary number. I did it one time just with my alcohol.
Okay.
And I was so depressed that I was like, oh my gosh, but I knew not to look at that because I knew I wasn't ready to come off pills. And then because that leash, that WCW leash, and that $1 million a year, that's a big leash. And it kept you on there enough that you'll never see me on TV screwed up. Never was. Mm-hmm. But that leash kept you sober enough not to die. But then when that leash was gone.
I get the dichotomy there. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And when the leash was gone, man, it was going to end bad. So I would have told him, you got away. You've been lucky to get away this far with what you got away with, bro. Mm-hmm. But it's coming down on you. And if you don't switch what you're doing,
right,
even though you may not get caught, just because it's a bad thing what you're doing to yourself and in life, it's going to get you some way, no matter what. And it did with the WWF. When the WWF fired Buff Bagwell after a main event a week earlier. So to my knowledge, and I'm throwing this out there for
forgive me for throwing, but wasn't that main event in Georgia or was it in Atlanta at that point?
That's the catch. We're main event, and I'm throwing this out to the listeners to please prove me wrong.
Right.
I don't want to be the only guy, so please prove me wrong. But I think I am the only professional wrestler in the history of time to be main event 1 week in Tacoma, Washington, and main event, and fired the next.
Right.
In Atlanta.
Your hometown. Basically,
I got fired
in Atlanta.
But I was a sacrificial lamb for Vince. I really believe that. I believe that he fired me, and brother, that locker room cleaned up, buddy. It was like they said they just fired Buff Bagwell in Atlanta.
Yeah.
That means nobody's safe. Nobody's safe then.
So you really believe that because he did it, especially in your hometown, in where you grow up, it was the shockwave that said, okay, nobody is safe. He did this in his home, which had to be at that point, a double bang, sort of like, all right, I've just been fired. I just got fired. And I literally get to walk home and kind of go, what the hell just happened?
Yeah. Oh, dude, when that happened, first of all, in Tacoma a week earlier, we knew that wasn't good. We knew that me and Booker, keep in mind, me and Booker T were the first match of the Invasion. It was
Right.
called the Invasion.
Right.
WCW and the WWF, that was the first match of the Invasion.
Right.
With that said, we were like, we weren't going to say nothing to them, but we were like, why are we doing this 5,000 miles away when next week we can do this in Ted Turner's backyard? I mean, that would be so much. And Booker T and Buff Bagwell, the Georgia Dome or the Phillips.
Right.
Are you kidding? That'd be incredible. So we knew it wasn't good, but I didn't think it was bad. Like I was going to be fired. I'm Buff Bagwell, man. I'm 30 years old. I'm in great shape. I feel great, man. I was ready to go, but just because of life, not doing life right, and being addicted to the pills and trying to hide it and doing all that, I think just things happen bad for you. Right. And that's what happened to me. And then when it was gone, then the addiction got worse and depression. And here I am talking about sobriety and recovery, trying to save other people's lives for not wasting 20 years. I lost 20 years, bro.
Yeah.
I lost 20 years easily.
And now at 53, as you're redeveloping your life, a couple of good things have happened. I think this may have been one of the more unexpected things. I want to get into it real quick. Give me photo number 2, Ming, and I'll do a little explanation. As Bagwell's Neighborhood made its debut, and it wound up going on Facebook immediately, 400,000 views. It was being shared by everybody, and it became this talk of like, oh, that cannot be Buff Bagwell. This is not true. This is, so in a weird way, having fun and doing this parody was kind of a way of kind of going, no, I'm here, and this is sort of, I'm branching out a little bit. Hopefully you'll like it. And did you expect the response that you got of that? Oh no, this can't be Buff Bagwell. You know what I mean?
I knew people were going to kind of be weirded out about it, but I really thought that the people would be more, I thought they would know it was me. But man, when I say that, even in my heyday, when this was gone, man, I could walk in a place and not get recognized. I mean, with this goatee gone, I could walk in a place and not have nobody say a word to me. I really could. Right. And I mean, I'd get a few eyes, but very few. So when I shave this off and you do the gray hair up in my gray hair and you make it a little more gray, and then, man, I mean, we had so much fun shooting those. Right. And it truly was kind of what was going on in my life with I was, Buff's here, but really I'm trying to become Mr. Bagwell, and Dallas even he was really trying to push for for everybody to quit calling me Buff. And we got to realize that's never going to happen like that. But Dallas refuses to call me Buff. He calls me Marcus. So, and I answer to all of them. And even WCW never really wanted to do what I wanted to do by calling me, Buff. Like The Rock wasn't Dwayne. He was The Rock. I wanted to be Buff. It was Stone Cold. It was Sting. It wasn't Sting Borden. You know what I'm saying? It was Sting. It was Lex Luger. It was Buff, supposedly. But man, Turner would not do it. He said, no, man, Marcus Buff Bagwell, so that's the most they'd ever give me on that, man. So, but that's cool. And I love my name, Marcus. And it's a strong, good, powerful name that my parents named me after. And, Dusty Rhodes is who started that, Dusty Rhodes, who gave my break in this business. And I loved him so much. And he just said that, back in 1990, man, I wanted a character. I wanted a gimmick. And he goes, we're going to use your real name. And I went, what? I go, no, man, no. But we did. And Marcus Alexander Bagwell, if you get over as your boring self, it sticks.
And again, Dusty's had such an influence on so many young wrestlers. So, I mean, he's definitely the guy who you look at. Oh, there's my protege. Here's the guy that really, developed me. But to your credit, along the way, your charisma was the reason, in my opinion, that you had the run on WCW, because it was like it graduated into the Buffs to stuff. I mean, and everything about it, and becoming a part of N.W.O. Let's just put it this way. When WCW started bringing in the other talent that they were bringing in at that point with Hogan and Nash and Hall and all these names, it had to feel like, okay, well, where do I fit in this whole thing? And yet you found your spot and continued to be the viable person and the viable character that made WCW so much fun to watch on a Monday night as I'm flipping between both channels and still going, yeah, WCW for the most part had the better product for a long time. Credit to you guys.
We did. We really did, man. It was just so much fun. During that show, Eric Bischoff and Conrad showed the 83 weeks. I mean, that's the 83 weeks, man. I was there, those 83. You know what I'm saying? I was there to see it. I was there giving, Bischoff high five on the ratings. And it was the best time of our lives. But to have that platform they gave me to be able to be a Buff Bagwell, Buff, the word Buff didn't happen until the N.W.O. And that's where I came up and started doing the Buff character and the Buff attitude. And, with a pro wrestler, it's all about finding what your niche is. And by doing that, we're not winning Oscar Academy Awards here. It's more of just turning yourself up as loud as you can. And that's what you get when you get a Diamond Dallas Page. Turn yourself all the way up is what you get when you're a Ric Flair. And when you turn it all the way up as Marcus Alexander Bagwell, you get Buff. And you're just the biggest that you can be, and that's how I describe it, being Buff, and that's just wide open, and just going out and just know there is no right or wrong. It's just wide open. Tell it like it is, straight up. You are fat, and I'm in shape, and I look good. And you don't, and it just got over. I was in such good shape during that time that I hated myself. I mean, I was like, look at me. I really do I look great. So when I put that on TV, it was hilarious because the boys know how great and honest and truthful and how funny I was. But to the fans, they were like, man, I hate this guy, man. But I had that little smile about it, which made people like me, So it was a great time to be the character I was right there. I was so blessed and so grateful just to be healthy enough to stay in that kind of shape, man, that I had so much fun as Buff Bagwell and that platform of the N.W.O. And one of the first things I saw that I knew I could separate myself and stay as a team with the N.W.O. was I was watching the ring one time, watching it back, and here's, 7 guys out there at the beginning. It's only 7. And all of us look exactly the same. And I thought, how can I be different? So I put Buff on my back of my shirt, and that way in the ring you can see what, and then I threw the do-rag, and then it was the top hat, So then it was this.
What's he pulling out here? Yes. The classic Buff hat, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So, and this idea, people asked me, they were like, how did you come up with that? And I was like, man, I'm a big ball cap guy. I love ball caps. Sure. And I'm always getting cool ball caps. And this is one called Legend. This was a great ball cap. But I was at buying ball caps, and they had a top hat in there. And it was my second wife, and she said, why don't you try the top hat on? And I was like, what for? So I tried it on, and this top hat looked really good on me. I thought, it looks pretty cool. So I bought it just for fun. And I don't quite know when it came into play, man, but I threw it out there, and everybody thought it was crazy, of course. And I said, I'm going to make this top hat cool. And I think because I broke my neck, I was trying to come up with something that kept me on TV, kept me with the mix.
Sure,
so the top hat in Buff Bagwell was created during my broke neck.
Okay.
Because I was trying to be cool. I was trying to stay on that TV, man. And the top hat was different. And then my mom came up with the idea of putting my face on the top. And that's what really got it over.
It's interesting to hear you talk about that, because I did hear recently you would consider coming back at 53 and do the wrestling thing. The thing that stands out to me is that the advantage you would have may not be the physical attributes. I would say more of the fact that you know how to sell the story, which I learned from Bully Ray when I interviewed him about a year and a half ago. If you can sell the story, half of the battle is won. The rest of it is just learning the moves. You have the charisma. You can sell a story. So if the physicals part even comes back a little bit, where do you see yourself in this thing? Could you see an AEW, an N.W.O, Impact, one of these kind of coming along and saying, hey, you know what, Marcus? I think there's a spot for you here.
No different than how I believed 34 years ago that I could do this and everybody thought I was crazy.
Right.
It would be the same thing now, except people don't think I'm crazy. It's just more of, is the physical part going to come together for me? Is my knee going to heal correctly? Is
Right.
everything going to come together? And if it does, with the amount of talent I've got in my brain from what I've done, there is no holding me back. There isn't. So the goal that I have set here of becoming a pro wrestler again, back into and doing it again, would
Right.
simply be up to my physical shape of being in shape enough to do it. Because I know mentally, like you just said, there's no doubt I can do this again. So I'm excited.
I'm going to throw one curveball at you, and I got to make sure I've got the photo right. I think it's photo number 4, Ming. This is from your Twitter feed. Teaching my niece how to wrestling bump. Showing someone how to do something I love so much makes me happy. So I pose this. Marcus Bagwell, manager, or as a character helping a young wrestler, maybe your niece. Would that intrigue you if you physically could not do what you wanted to do?
That happened along the way, and just kind of, that's how life is, and ironically with me, starting to get better, and with DDP all around, and just talking about wrestling and these, the podcast coming out, of course, I'm, getting excited again. All of a sudden my niece comes along, and her and her husband both are huge fans. And Jonna, my niece, loved me on TV, and who don't want to be a rock star, right? And so she's an Atlanta Falcon cheerleader. She's for 4 years, Atlanta Falcon cheerleader. I mean, absolute knockout. She's got the look, she's got the charisma. She's all about, I know she's going to be great with the mic. The rest of it is just matter of case she do the moves. And that's, matter of fact, we got practice tonight, which is going to be her 5th or 6th time. And normally I could tell you that I could just have somebody get in the ring. And this is why I've never trained anybody before, because I could have them get in the ring and say, run the ropes for me. After they run those ropes, I could say, nice to meet you. See you later. And that's not a way to train people, because you got to try to get them to try to make it. But I couldn't waste my time. I could say, look, man, you just don't have it. You just don't got what it takes. If you can't just come in the ring and dumb it down and run the ropes and make it look like you know what you're doing, you ain't going to be able to make it look like you know what you're doing a year from now.
It's a fair assessment.
So let's just cut through it and just say, look, you don't got it, but she's got it. She's got what it takes, I really believe. Or I wouldn't have gone back the second time. I'd have talked her out of it. So this is our 6th time, and I'm real excited.
Very cool. Very cool stuff. Marcus Buff Bagwell's here on the A Game. It's time for the Random Shot segment. This is where I get to play Uber Fan. I have stalked his social media, come up with a few questions. Not all of it has to do with wrestling, so this will be a fun thing for Marcus as well. So with that in mind, I am going to start with photo number 3. So there's a ball cap involved here. Yes, this man is a man. He's from the area. So better sports moment for you as a fan, the Braves win in the World Series in 21, or, because I think you were there, the University of Georgia's 2nd win as national champions in football.
Without a doubt, the Bulldog win.
Okay.
Hey, I don't know if people know this or not, but that field goal kick that Ohio State was attempting at the last play of the game,
in the
semis,
semis,
the ball actually landed on the ground, and the game was over almost at the exact strike of midnight. So we were watching the field goal, and nobody, until it was 10 after 12, and somebody went, "Hey, Happy New Year." I went, "Oh my God." So literally I watched it back on ESPN. It was literally, we were watching, and it sailed left, and then it went down, and it was actually like, "Happy New Year." That would be the best New Year I've ever had in my life. So
wow. That was that. See, it's sober and a great semifinal. By the way, follow him on Twitter, and he's got a video compilation. I think he was actually looking at his phone thinking, wait a minute, is it after midnight? And then he looks up and goes, "Oh, hi, Happy New Year."
Yeah, I was asleep.
And by the way, speaking of Twitter, here's my second question. You recently admitted to your favorite song of all time. Before I posted, tell us about it.
Man, I don't know what it is, but the word warrior has always just been a big deal to me. My name is Marcus is leader of men,
Mm-hmm.
and Alexander is great warrior is
Oh,
somewhere in it.
Alexander the Great, of course. There you go.
Alexander the Great.
Mm-hmm.
And so leader and warrior. My dad was a power freak on being powerful and being the best and being a leader, lead, follower, get the hell out of the way. Like I told you,
right.
He was he had that sign right behind him, the one with the biggest toys wins,
Mm-hmm.
all that, if your aunt don't have nuts, she be your uncle. I mean, just all these power things my dad always had. And
right.
no, if and buts were candies and nuts, every day would be Christmas.
I've heard that.
Just all kind of stuff like that. He was always a power freak. So with that said, man, Alexander, means warrior. And like I had a dog one time. I named him Chongo Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
And then, that was before, before I thought of that song. But about the same time of all that, Tony Basil came out with that song.
Mickey. Oh, Mickey.
The Warrior song came out with Tony Basil.
Actually, no. Give me photo number 5. We're talking about that was Patty. Yeah, Patty Smythe. Handle, yeah. Ming, put up photo 5. I want to give everybody a look. This is what he tweeted. There it is. And again, I'll be the first to say, the last song I expected Buff Bagwell to say, hey, this is my all-time favorite song. Patty
really?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's a great song. I guess, and I apologize. I think I stereotype a lot of the wrestlers to be more hard rock and heavy metal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Metallica. Oh my God, AC/DC is way up there. I mean, but I'm a big Bon Jovi fan too. I love Bon Jovi. So, I don't know. I love them all. But then the Warrior, man, I think just that bang, bang, the Warrior. I just loved it. And then I was in the movie. I was in the Day of the Warrior, and I was the warrior in the movie. And that's where my tattoo come from.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that. Wow.
Yeah. I had a leather band tied around both my arms in that movie called Day of the Warrior. Mm-hmm. And from that, I wanted to ink it. I wanted it to be a tattoo.
Sure.
So that's where that came from. It's a leather band tied around my arm. And that's what I liked. And it kind of, Hellwig, the Ultimate Warrior, he did the shoestrings,
Yes, he did.
And so, but I thought the leather band was really cool. So I inked it. I had to ink. But the Warrior song, man, no doubt about it, is my all-time favorite.
Good stuff. Since you mentioned acting, here's a true or false, and I think I know the answer to this, but you once had an acting role on a British comedy?
Yes.
Yeah. I was surprised to see that. I mean,
was it?
I remember it's called Living the Dream. It was on for 2 seasons.
Living a Dream. That's right.
But the interesting twist on this, for people who don't know, you might be able to find this on Tubi or something because they're bringing out some of the old, and not that old, it's 2017 to 2019 run over in the BBC through Sky Television. But Kevin Nash actually was a semi-regular on the show. Did Kevin have anything to do with getting you the guest spot that you had, or did it just happen through your agency, or what?
No, it just happened, man. It was in Savannah. We were taping that.
Right.
We shot that in Savannah. It was a 4-hour drive for me. We shot during the week, went home on the weekends, but I had a blast doing that stuff, man, and really enjoyed it. But me and Kevin had a lot of fun together with that. But no, we just that was truly my first really focus in, man, you're on your own here and have to do an acting job. It was a big deal. It was a real big deal. And with Kevin, it's hard to keep a straight face with him, man. He's so funny all the time.
Right.
So it was so much fun to work with Kevin, and Living a Dream was that show. And there was also several stars on that. I'm
going to mention 2 right now, as a matter of fact, who just passed away, Leslie Jordan, a funny veteran actor who was a part of this. And if you remember the show's Living Single and the Facts of Life, Kim Fields was also a part of the show.
Kim Fields.
Yeah.
She got mad at me one day on set. We were shooting a scene.
Okay.
And keep in mind, I was green at this. I didn't quite know all the stuff she knew by no means.
Sure.
So I was a pro wrestler trying to act. She was an actor getting mad at the pro wrestler. And she was like, and the shot was getting done, and I delivered my line perfectly. Mm-hmm. And she went, cut. I went, what happened? And she goes, you're in my shot. And I went, what? And she goes, you're in my shot. and she didn't say it ugly, but
Mhm.
I was in her camera shot,
Right.
and I got it. I was like, oh, it won't happen again. I get that. I'm with you,
Right.
but I just thought it was so great. And she was like, oh, you're in my shot.
So it really does answer an interesting question. Any wrestler is going to have some acting chops to sell a story, but to go on a set and actually do an acting role, that's a different thing altogether.
It's a whole nother world, brother. For
Mhm.
starters, you got two different kind of directors usually,
Mhm.
and most of them are like what I'm getting ready to say.
Yeah.
Most of them want it said exactly the way it's on the paper,
Paper.
and that 90% of the time may not be the way that you would say it.
Mm.
Like, come over here, man, or whatever it may be. It can't be the way you like. Hey, will you come over here for a second? That's more normal for you, but that may not be what's on the paper, man.
Right.
So you've got to really say it. And most directors want it exactly how it is on the paper. So you got to make that yours. You got to own up to it, man. So and the more you say it, the more you get it in your head. So it's about knowing it. It's about, understanding it. And it's a lot of reading and stuff that I don't like reading, but you become a good reader. And because even reading like this quietly is not near like reading it out loud, how you really sound. Right. So when you go to acting lessons, one of the first things you learn is when you're reading and going over things, read everything you read out loud. Because when you're on TV, you don't read it to yourself.
Right.
You're reading it out loud, and believe me, it sounds a lot different than how you think it sounds.
I agree with that. As somebody who's been on radio long enough, when you're kind of trying to do a commercial, it's like how it sounds in your head and how it comes out of your mouth as you're voicing it. It is very true. Two completely different things sometimes. It's very true.
But I had a blast. shooting that with Kevin. It was a lot of fun. Living a dream.
It's interesting because you're there with Diamond Dallas Page, who just did a movie, by the way, with Don Johnson, which I thought was cool. So obviously the influence of him may make you, and plus you're doing, Mr. Bagwell's Neighborhood, the acting thing is intriguing you. So if you were to go a little further in acting, do you see yourself as more the villain, the good guy, or the comedian? Because we're seeing a little of the comedian in the Mr. Rogers, the Mr. Bagwell's Neighborhood stuff. You know what I mean?
I'm really a funny guy. And what I like to do is take trauma and tragedy in my life and make it funny. And that's what I do. And that's what I'm going to start doing. Me and my manager, Brandy, Jake's daughter, Brandy, Jake the Snake's daughter, Brandy. Yeah. She's who's my agent. And so she takes care of Jake and me. But Jake does a lot of comedy stuff, and he's great at it. But at the same time, that's what I want to do. Okay. And I want to do it as well. Along with my sobriety and recovery, that's going to be my whole main thing. And branching off from that, I still do autograph signings and stuff, and I do several. I'm in Moline, Illinois this weekend for Fitness Expo in Moline, and that's a great thing. And but I also, when I go to places, I try to do like recovery and sobriety stuff as well. Sure. So if I get a chance to do that, I do that, all the way. But it really is. It's just been, a lot of fun. But I do see me being funny. I really do. So, but I like villain and being mean too. So that comes a little more natural maybe. But I really do like funny, and I see funny and clean cut more than being a villain.
I look forward to that. I look forward to seeing you go there. I got one more question in the random shots. This is more distinctively Atlanta-ish area. Which place, if you were going to, because I know you try to keep yourself in shape and you're loading up with the protein and keep yourself going here, but if you're going out and kind of saying, all right, I want to cheat a little bit, are you going for a Revolution donut, or are you just going to pig out at the Marietta Diner?
Well, are those my only two choices?
If you got another one, tell me about it, because I don't know much about Atlanta. I just know those two establishments.
Well, this is more nationwide.
Oh, go nationwide then, brother. Go.
Nationwide would be on a cheat day.
Yeah.
Would be the Dairy Queen.
Ah, you're a.
Let me tell you my specific order.
Please.
3 double cheeseburgers with ketchup only. A hot dog with cheese, ketchup, and chili only. A large fry, a large Diet Coke, and a large Oreo Blizzard.
You got to get the Blizzard way there. I agree with you. You have to have the Blizzard on that. But I
and
noticed,
it all goes down, brother.
but I like that. No, I gotta have the Diet Coke. I'm trying to stay clean here.
It's weird. It's not the clean thing because I do cheat days is how you do
Yeah.
it. I go 6 days.
Okay.
You know the deal. No carbs for 6 days.
Sure.
I mean, not even a little bit. I try to go 0 carbs. It's hard, but you go 0 as you can, and then you carb load one day a week. And it worked for me years ago as Buff Bagwell. So I'm trying it again. But at the same time, I was much younger and all that still, but.
Sure.
But really, I think it's the way to go because it's just too hard to really watch your carbs during it.
Yeah.
It's just hard, man. There's carbs in everything, Yeah. So it's just hard. It's really hard. But I do. That is my your cheat day creates itself during you getting hungrier and hungrier for that day 7. So sometimes it's pizza, sometimes it's Dairy Queen, sometimes it's it's the Varsity, and sometimes it's the Marietta Diner. But yeah,
I love it.
But donuts are one of my favorites, man. So like on my cheat day last week, I was in Charleston, West Virginia, and I pulled into a gas station and I got 4 packs of those little tin donuts. I got honey glazed, I got 2 powders, and one that was like another coconut something. And I mean, I ate them all, man, with a regular Mountain Dew.
Nice.
It was wonderful.
I love it. Getting ready to wrap up here. I'm going to wrap it up with 2 things. There is a docuseries that DDP has been producing, which is Change or Die. Now, you're a part of this. He's been filming this whole thing, but to take it one step further, this is supposed to be a series that he's also going to launch, supposedly, where he's going to take regular people. But in this case, the initial thing is about you. When is this going to see the light of day, or do we know, or will it ever see the light of day? Let me ask that.
It's definitely going to see the light of day. We've got there's several people that are wanting it.
Sure.
We're just trying to, I say we, Dallas and Steve Yu are trying to figure out where they want to, which one they want to go to.
Sure.
But this is something that's going to be huge. It's going to be really big. And it's just got a great story. And that's actually where I relapsed during the shooting of this. So, and that's where Dallas was involved and everything, but it really does play out, and it's got such a great story to it, man. But it's a really great show, and it's going to be something that's going to be really powerful, I think. But they're really trying to search for where they're going to go with it.
I can see your mindset's already okay with this, knowing that all this happened, and you're like, hey, look, if I'm going to talk about it, I have no problem people seeing it as well.
Absolutely not. And buddy, when you see it, man, whew, it's ugly. It's ugly.
I can only imagine. I mean, look, and I'm sure. Have you seen any of the clips yet? Just in general, they've been keeping that away from you.
No, I saw it's called a sizzle reel. I saw a sizzle reel.
Absolutely. For those who don't know, a sizzle reel is basically condensing about 5 to 7 minutes of an idea of a show and kind of giving it out. So here's Marcus watching this. You got about 5 or 7 minutes, and it's not a lot. And then you're seeing that. I can see just by your face, like, holy crap!
I mean,
what the hell?
I don't know. It's the only thing I've ever done that I really was blown away at myself. I remember the day I did this certain video that I'm on, and it was for Cameo. And I remember why I did it. I did it because I didn't want to let a fan down, but I was beat up. I'd fallen and knocked my teeth out and scarred my hair. My eyes were black. I broke my nose, but I just looked horrible. But this kid sent me a Cameo that he wanted. It wasn't the $75 or whatever it is. It was the reason a fan wanted me to do it, and it was going to expire, and it was hurting my feelings that I was going to let it expire on this guy. And so I did it. And the girl that was shooting it for me, she didn't want to do it, obviously. And I threatened her. I said, look, I'll kill you if you don't keep videoing this.
Wow.
So if she wanted to push it, I probably could have got arrested for, threatening her or whatever. But we got it here, and I didn't know they had it. And they showed that in the sizzle reel for the show. And man, I lost it. I was like, oh my God. And it was so bad. I just don't know what I was thinking. But drugs do that, man. They just make you forget, not look at stuff like that. And you look back on it. But man, where I came from that video is leaps and bounds. And I'm very happy.
Amen to that.
Yes.
And as we wrap this up, I'm wrapping it up with one photo because you posted this recently on Twitter. It's my way of saying thank you as a fan. Give me photo number 8. Anybody who is anybody in this era of WCW. And leave the photo up for a second, because as a fan, as I start with and take a look at, well, not only Ted Turner in the middle, but if you look in the background, Mick Foley is in there in center left. You can see Sting in there. You can see Mark Miro in the front looking dressed and dapper. Next to him, Ric Flair. Next to him, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. You've got the Nasty Boys. You've got Arn Anderson in the background. I mean, as somebody who watched WCW in the 90s, thank you for making it entertaining, making it fun.
You're the only person that's really reached out to me on that picture. When I saw that picture on my phone the other night,
yeah,
I was like, anybody that even somewhat likes pro wrestling.
Yep.
I mean, I'm taking a knee in the front of Ted Turner with Van Vader.
Yeah.
And
Johnny Vader. There you go.
Dustin Rhodes is right behind Ted Turner. I mean,
Ming, if you could put the photo up one more time, because I thought that you're right. I thought it was he's peeking around the corner. I thought Dustin, but I wasn't sure.
To Dustin's right is Teddy Long.
Oh God, yeah.
And then right in front of Teddy Long is Terry Taylor, the Red Rooster.
Yes.
And then Stone Cold's right behind him.
Oh my God, that's right. I didn't even notice that.
Stone Cold's right beside Sting, bro.
Yeah. Oh, there. Yeah, that's, you don't realize it because it's like going, he looks a little different back then.
And then look, there's Michael P.S. Hayes to the far right behind Flair is Michael P.S. Hayes.
There, yeah, I recognize P.S. Hayes, yeah.
And that's the all-time favorite referee in the world. That's Nick Patrick.
Yes, legend Nick Patrick when it comes
to that picture, man, speaks volumes, bro.
It really does. It really does. That's why I posted it. I was like, I got to share this in this.
I'm glad you did.
Thank you so much. And again, as a fan, I say thank you. As a fan of you, all the best. Continue this journey. Stay on it. And there are so many fans of yours that love you. I know I saw, speaking of 83 hours you mentioned earlier before, Eric Bischoff giving you such a nice compliment, said, I quote, I'm excited to hear from him. That says a lot. And it says, when Bischoff is saying, hey, look, I'm in his corner. I want to see him succeed. We all want to see you succeed. So keep it up, brother.
I appreciate it so much, man. Thank you for having me on, man. It just means a lot to me. And my fans mean so much to me, and they always have. So, again, please reach out and stay with me, man. On all my stuff, go to marcusbuffbagwell.com. That takes you to my website. And my website gives you all my Twitter handles, Facebook, Instagram, and all that stuff. So go to marcusbuffbagwell.com and stay in touch with me, guys. I love all you guys, man. Thank you so much, Rob.
No, my pleasure. And we'll hope to see you at a convention soon near you, because I got friends who do the Comic-Con circuit, so I wouldn't be surprised if I see you somewhere out in that world at some point.
Come see me.
Absolutely. I plan on it. For Marcus Buff Bagwell, I'm Rob Acampora. That's a wrap of the A Game this week. Thanks again for being a part of it. We'll be back next week on Thursday night. Buff still has the stuff. See you soon.